Yes, enough already. I'm not going to waste time today with unnecessary introductions, because then I run out of time to talk about everything I want, and I end up feeling down. Plot twists. Do you remember when Arnoso got run over by an Iveco truck with bushy eyebrows and a green mesh suit, and he survived the impact? But then a simp, good for nothing, came along and sent him to bed. Or did he punch him in the dick? Even from 500 kilometers away, you could still see he was weaker than that rampaging green buffalo, right? Well, and when Ash was in that infamous Sinnoh League, the one he entered with the Pokemon team, so ridiculously unstoppable, the writers had no choice but to bring in a guy, with all the cheats from the pirated R4 Nintendo dual screen cartridge activated. Well, that's what the video's about, guys. A quick note. The initial Goku versus Vegeta fight was undoubtedly one of the best in the franchise. A fight that shows you don't need flashy transformations or over-the-top gimmicks to create a spectacular battle that will always be remembered in the industry. Being polite doesn't diminish bravery. Prioritizing the spectacle of a fight and its background to the maximum, relegating everything else to the background. Coherence and common sense in order to unnecessarily prolong a fight have a price, which was that Vegeta had such high resistance that it was an insult. Look, I don't want to imply with all this that the fight in question wasn't good. In fact, even after having watched it a million times, I still can't help but get goosebumps all over my body every time I take a look at it. The problem comes when you realize that in this fight, there were moments that are plot holes. Even in the context of Dragon Ball, an anime notorious for plot holes, it's hard to know where to begin. Let's see. First of all, I'll say that in Dragon Ball, power levels are the simplest you'll ever find in any anime. In fact, before the Android saga, a simple device called the Scouter could tell you who was stronger or weaker using a numerical scale. If we're talking about numbers in this fight, Vegeta had 18,000 units, while Goku had between 8,000 and 9,000, not counting the Kaioken, which directly multiplies the power by a number chosen by the user based on their needs. During this fight, when Goku uses a normal Kaioken, he increases his power up to 16,000 units, since it's directly a 2x multiplier to his base power. Even with this increase, he is still surpassed by Vegeta, since Vegeta still has 2,000 more units. In response, Goku uses Kaioken times 3, reaching a power of 24,000 units, giving Vegeta a monstrous beating. After this, as we know, the clash of powers happens, which becomes the turning point. In the middle of his Kamehameha, Goku uses a dangerous Kaioken times 4, with which he reaches a staggering 32,000 units of power. At the same time, he powers up that Kamehameha with all his strength. Obviously, Vegeta is overwhelmed by such an enormous difference in power. But then something completely absurd happens, something we will never see again in this story. And it's that Vegeta, as if it were nothing, escapes from the Kamehameha. The object was thrown at him by a man nearly twice his strength, using full force. In the entire Dragon Ball universe, no one has ever been able to dodge or escape from the attack once it has connected with its target. Is this really ridiculous? Maybe we've seen it with characters of a similar power level, but never has someone much weaker been able to dodge an attack that's almost twice as powerful. For a clear example, once Goku turned Super Saiyan against Freezer, he humiliated him without even taking the fight seriously. To clarify, I'm referring to the manga version of the fight as the anime adaptation prolonged it, making it appear more balanced compared to the original source material. Anyone who has read the manga would say so. At this point, Goku was at least twice as strong as Freezer at his 100% power. But no, Goku was only about 20% stronger than Freezer at his maximum power. And with just that difference, it seemed like Goku had energy to spare to power up. The nonsense extended to his brother, father, son, and second cousin. From this moment on, everything turned into nonsense. Vegeta is mutilated, slashed on the back, crushed by a giant gorilla the size of a mountain. And as if all this I've talked about wasn't enough, the guy took a damn Genkidama head-on and was still alive without any problem. Freezer withstood it because, aside from being thousands and thousands of times stronger than Vegeta, the guy belongs to a race of beings that can live even if they're cut into pieces. This was confirmed in Fukatsu no F. However, we're discussing a character who, only a few sagas later, a girl who didn't even have twice his power probably shattered his arm with a simple half-hearted kick. The worst part is that after all this punishment, the guy kept moving. They had enough energy left to catch a Garchomp in Pokemon Go and even to laugh after taking that Kamehameha, a spirit bomb, being crushed, beaten, slashed, and left bleeding. The damn bastard kept laughing in that damn capsule. Was it really that hard to end this fight with a clash of powers? And then Vegeta could have come out badly injured, called his capsule like he did, and just left? Everything would have pretty much stayed the same. I think everything we saw after the clash between the Garlic Gun and the Kamehameha was canonical filler, because it didn't add anything except plot holes, giving a character a resilience he never actually showed before. Again, yes, the Namekian endured punishment, but nothing compared to what happened that day on Earth. Unlike my beloved Dragon Ball, Jojo isn't known for being an anime with too many inconsistencies or plot holes. But the ones it does have, oh my god. Rosado, a guy with one of the most terrifying stand powers I've ever seen. He faces Dopio in his epitaph. Should we call him Kim Friesen, little guy instead? Dopio had one of the most blatant and obvious plot armors I've ever seen, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. First inconsistency. Imagine that a guy can make you vomit the iron in your blood in the form of razor blades. Just like Metallica did to Dopio at the start of the fight. Now I ask you, what would happen? Exactly. Your entire stomach, esophagus, throat, and mouth would be bleeding so heavily and so much that you would drown in your own blood in a matter of seconds. Let's ignore that and move on to the second inconsistency, as I don't know about the buff ghost guys fighting. Rosado made Metallica absorb so much iron from Dobby's blood that his blood turned yellow. According to them, without iron, your blood simply doesn't carry oxygen properly and you suffocate, even if air enters your lungs. So what happened then? Dopio just kept going as if nothing happened, and it seemed like he was just a bit more tired. And that's it? When in the middle of a fight, you run out of oxygen in a matter of seconds. The tension of the moment and the body's survival mechanisms are the reasons. I won't go into further detail about that. Then came the plot twist we all know, where Aerosmith delivers the final blow to Rosado. In a way that, personally, was really lame. Yeah, obviously you couldn't have Dopio lose to Rosado since the Golden Wind event would have ended right there. But then at least don't make him fight against a guy who's so ridiculously overpowered that you have no choice but to use plot armor for Dopio. As if he himself were writing something like, asterisk, Rosado dies and I don't, asterisk. And we can't forget point number 4, the whole frog thing. I'm the first one to make memes about eating a frog to survive. But does Araki have the slightest idea how the human body works? I mean, basic notions, even if it's just a little killing off characters at the drop of a hat for any silly reason that comes to his mind, just to try to give his story that so-called realistic and gritty touch. But barely opening a biology book to see if it makes any damn sense that a guy who's dying, he's dying of asphyxiation because he lacks iron in his blood to transport oxygen. Can he save himself from dying by eating a damn frog? I think it's common sense why this is impossible, but I'll explain it briefly. First of all, digestion is a process that takes hours. So even if Dopio ate that frog, he would have had to wait hours to be able to absorb its nutrients. And second, I highly doubt that a simple little frog has enough iron to replace all the iron in an adult human. Yeah, then he drinks a child's blood or who knows what else. But several minutes passed until that moment. How the hell did Dopio survive all of this? And let's not even talk about the massive hemorrhages that Rosado caused him, which on their own should have been enough to kill Dopio. Aztec gods inside pillars and blonde vampires with little yellow ghosts manipulating time. I shouldn't overthink. I wish I could keep quiet like Poochie. Handsome. To close the video, I've put together a brief collection of plot inconsistencies caused by one character. A character who, in my opinion, has one of the most aggressive plot armors I've ever seen to this day. In an anime, this creates moments that border on the ridiculous, literally the complete opposite of poor guts. I'm talking about Luffy, the protagonist of One Piece. So get ready, because I'm about to give you a real hard time. Nah, just kidding. I like to play along with the meme that I'm a Luffy hater or something, just to make the fanboys of this character even more upset. I guess the unbearable fans of the Rubber Captain have already closed the video the moment I mentioned his name. So for the rest of you, let me clarify. As always, One Piece is one of my favorite anime and I hold it in very high regard. I don't particularly dislike Luffy, and I actually think he'd be a character I'd be more fond of if it weren't for everyone else. The Deus Ex Machina that the creator included in the manga so that Luffy could escape from many situations that, if not for the author's intervention, would have ended very badly. Of course, in almost every manga, there's some kind of Deus Ex Machina, usually in favor of the protagonist, even if it's a small one. The problem is that Luffy is on a different level, that the enemy is absurdly more powerful and destructive than he is. It's no big deal Luffy is immune. Because now it's convenient to apply the logic that obviously rubber doesn't conduct electricity. So one of the villains who could have been one of the best ended up being a clown because of a plot twist. That a super evil and unscrupulous villain who has a criminal organization. He has no qualms about eliminating anyone who gets in his way. He confronts you multiple times, leaving you seriously hurt. It's okay because the villain in question will have the decency not to hit any of your vital points. He wouldn't want to hurt your feelings. You end up in a situation that's obviously a game over from miles away, which has been caused by your recklessness since you think you're above good and evil and that your actions have no consequences. A situation that in any other story would have meant the death of several main characters. Nothing happens because a legendary guy will come to save you. And also, one of the enemies will take your side. Because now it turns out he's a friend of your father, and me, I don't know, I'm just a nobody. Are you facing a guy who is clearly superior to you in every way? Who hasn't given the slightest impression that you could beat him? Not in strength, speed, endurance, or technique. It's no big deal. All it takes is for your buddy to shout at you a couple of times. Get a new technique or transformation to at least give some coherence to what you're about to do. What for, bro? What for? Just scream and throw punches in the air even though you're not even supposed to be able to stand. Your opponent is barely scratched and tired, despite their fights against Doflamingo and Katakuri. Because I could spend hours talking about how absurd it was that Luffy came out victorious from these fights, especially the one against Katakuri. But, without a doubt, the worst mess Luffy made was his role in Marineford. For some reason I don't understand. It seemed like the enemies were obligated to handle Luffy with care, or the allies were obligated to get him out of dangerous situations. Every 5 minutes, as if they were his personal babysitters. The guy acted like he owned the place. He would stand in front of the three admirals, striking a pose, edgy with a damn piece of wood under his arm, and they didn't even bother to take his damn head off. In fact, Kizaru landed a kick on him and barely did any damage. Man, there are two possibilities here. Either Kizaru kicked him with extreme care, focusing on not hurting him, wouldn't want to hurt his feelings again. Or does Kizaru have less strength than Foxy, the Silver Fox? Mihawk intercepts Luffy? It's no big deal. A swordsman named Vista appears, someone whose name we've never even heard before. Turns out he's one of the world's most powerful swordsmen. How convenient, right? Will Smoker or Hancock take out Ace or Crocodile? Will Akainu or Jinbe? Ace needs to escape and get medical help, possibly from Trafalgar Law. Yes, some like Boa were his friends, and it makes sense that they would help him. But in most cases, they were either just acquaintances or complete strangers. The worst part is that Luffy was running like a madman across the battlefield unscathed. Imagine being an ant and having to cross the field where elephants are fighting. It's laughable to think that you won't get crushed at some point. I understand many of you may disagree, and that's okay. Luffy is a beloved character, but I'm sure that at least on one point, even if it's just one, you'll agree with me. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Please, pretty please. I also have my Discord server. Links to everything are in the description. On this channel, we're otakus who stay clean and social. See you in the next videos. Until then. Subscribe.